System computer booting up. Accessing file distribution. File 001. Starlight versus Hazmat. Aptitude test number 1. Starting now.
It has been 150 years since the explosion of our sun as it hung in the sky. Prior to that explosion, there was 100 years beforehand of terrible climate strife. This climate strife, as you could reasonably imagine, had to do with global warming of the planet as the sun's harmful rays pierced through the ozone as our own habits caught up to us. And out of all of the nations of the world, the continent of Africa managed to come out in the midst of this horrible climate struggle and strive for something better. It managed to shoot itself from one of the worst off third world continents to basically the leader of the first world in the span of about 100 years, roughly. And part of the way it did this was all across Africa, something called the Salvage Union was built. And the Salvage Union was a complex network of computer systems, supply lines, cities, chains of natural resources. And Africa was able to exploit its natural resources to a degree that had never been seen before. And what this resulted in was the aid to the rest of the world on behalf of the Salvage Union, which was this global world leader, in order to create more renewable energy sources worldwide. Sadly, that did very little to help. What ended up happening was the world did not go out with a bang, it went out with a whimper and then a bang. Because as this continued to happen to the world, the sun went supernova and then inexplicably exploded at the end of this period of 100 years. Following this, shards of the sun streaked across the sky and hit most of the planets of our solar system, our own planet and our moon, leaving a pockmarked beacon of the apocalypse hanging in the sky. These sad few pieces remaining of the moon. The vast majority of the moon is on our planet somewhere, in chunks, scattered, salvaged, who knows. But after this horrible event happened, humanity retreated underground. It became distant and socially disconnected. The old world was vastly forgotten. However, 100 years after the explosion of the sun, humanity rebuilt. It rekindled its flames around these shards of the sun, which provided warmth, light, heat for humanity. We crawled out from underground and built vast cities, and our level of technology skyrocketed after realizing that we could use this solar fuel to our great advantage. And so using this solar fuel, we managed to build fields of force around these cities to protect ourselves. We managed to pioneer the first great technological innovation of this new period, the Nova Aetas, the New Age, and that was the sparks. We needed these sparks because outside of the sun shards, there is nothing. All that's left is an icy polar planet, a rock. There's nothing out there that resembles what we once knew. Forests have changed entirely, simply vast swaths of icy desert across most of the planet after, it flooded and then froze over when the sun was gone. And so the planet is a vastly different place than we remember it, and the darkness is penetrating. It is called the dusk, and it shifts, it changes, and it's unchartable for the most part. But that's where the sparks came in, and they helped to a greater degree than anything else could. With these sparks, about 50 years ago, so it has been 150 years since the sun exploded, but about 50 years ago was when the Spark program was pioneered, and it began. It was rocky at first, but eventually it came to the conclusion of where we see it now. This is the second wave. You all are part of the second wave of Spark pilots. You're the first here to be in Johanneswell because Africa is one of the places in the world that is the most unexplored. There are plenty of places that are still part of the dusk and greatly unexplored, most of the world still. But Africa is entirely dark, except for Johanneswell. Johanneswell is where the only recorded shard in Africa is. There are surely a couple more small ones, maybe even a large one hiding, but we're not sure about that fact. And so Johanneswell, people clung to it for a while, but the city as you would know it, this kind of megaplex surrounding the sun shard, has only existed for about 5 years because it was built very rapidly. And the goal is a goal of both some outsiders, but also a lot of native people to Africa to rebuild the Salvage Union. And so that's what you're a part of. You are part of the Salvage Union. You're trying to reconnect these old databases, these supply lines across Africa, and bring it back to its former glory and try to pioneer the new world. You are the Spark Pilots. This is Nova Atis. You all, you four, are members of the Johanneswell Aptitude Graduation Program. Johanneswell is the remnants of what's left of Johannesburg, South Africa. It is the center of the rebuilding and currently, growing Salvage Union that is named after the original organization itself. And the majority of the people who are in favor of this organization are natives of Africa, people who lived here before, or descendants of those people, rather, and are committed to restoring the glory of the continent and perhaps providing a beacon for the future of humanity itself. That being said, Johanneswell has only existed for approximately 5 years. The first wave of the Spark program happened 50 years ago. This is part of the second wave. You guys are the first wave here in Johanneswell, but you're the second wave of Spark pilots, because systematically all across the other places that have Spark programs, they are also sending out their second waves of Sparks, because either the first wave have grown old, have fallen, have grown tired, or it's just been quite simply deemed that there need to be more Spark pilots and Sparks out there. And so this has happened. Generally, Spark teams consist of about 8 to 10 Spark pilots, sometimes more. In the case of the Horde in Mongolia and China, they consist of approximately 20 in their first wave alone, and they've lost very few. It can vary, but more often than not, there's going to be about 8 to 10 Sparks in a member of a union, and of course, this is the Salvage Union. You all have been training, and you have been practicing for this moment for who knows how long. It could be your entire life up to this point. It could be only a fraction of your life. You could be an adult, and we're about to find this out ourselves. So, we come to you four, and you all remember at the end of the kind of character building session that you all took this large freight elevator into the very bottom, deep, deep under Johanneswell, is the Spark training area, and it's this big underground complex full of, Spark garages and training facilities, and even some pneumatic tubes that are designed to, in the future, perhaps send Sparks out to other areas of the Salvage Union. So, you came down into this place, and the computer gave you command and commanded you to be at the ready. Then you were taken away to your various quarters again, but this time it doesn't feel the same as it ever has before. It feels different. You visited your families just this past weekend and did what your business was in the upper city, but now you are down here for an entire week for the rest of the aptitude training. This includes training regimens and courses and things like this, but it is all capped off by what is about to happen. You two are the first two Sparks to enter the duel. And this is going to be a bracketed duel that uses a system that you guys are aware of. You've used tangentially, but not very, very in-depth, because the system was designed specifically for this. It is the Augmented Reality NetWeave Chamber. This is Augmented Reality NetWeave Chamber 007 that you guys will be using. It has this sign over top of it that has the glowing names of each of you guys as Sparks, Starlight, and Hazmat above it. And then there's a freight elevator that goes down into the room, and your Sparks are being prepped and tinkered and tuned up in the garage, and maybe you're even a part of it up to this point, but they're about to be sent down there. And you guys are just kind of apprehensively waiting, talking your quarters, things like that. You hear a familiar voice come across the intercom.
Boot up sequence initiated. All potential candidates for Spark graduation program have been aggregated. Johanneswell Spark Graduation Aptitude Test. Call sign Starlight versus call sign Hazmat to initiate in T-600 seconds. I am System Computer ANUGA-042 in service to the Salvage Union database. Any metadata requests may be fielded to me for the duration of aptitude testing. Inter-Spark comlinks will be disabled for duration of the test. Do not be alarmed by this. Prepare for aptitude starting now.
Like it said, any metadata requests can be fielded to the computer. It also mentioned that inter-Spark comlinks will be down. That means that you four, each team will be unable to communicate with one another. Duh. You will be fighting the opponent blind. To reflect that as well, if you guys have any tactical discussion that you need to have, do it on your own, because I know you guys can text each other. The computer says that, and now you guys actually have 600 seconds, which is 10 minutes in case you weren't aware, out of game and in game to describe any preparations you would like to make, anything that you would like to do. And it is now 7:20, so you have until 7:30 to do anything that you wish to do before aptitude.
Is there anything we're not allowed to do?
Not really. I mean, anything that you could think of that would be in this underground complex, which is probably a lot considering you guys have been training here for quite some time, is allowable. So any of that you can do.
So Mojo decides to take an Adderall, or like whatever the closest adjacent version of Adderall would be in this new version of the world, and is trying to calm down and calm the nerves before all of this. Mojo a bit of hyper, and this is not the time to be hyper.
Right. So you're trying to calm down and get some focus. You take some meds to focus up. Go ahead and Mojo, roll me. That sounds like it would be a very much a shade, which is not your attribute, I believe, correct?
No, it's the spark.
Yeah, it's a spark.
So roll me a shade, which is going to be 1 die, of course, since you don't have access to shade at the moment. Oh, boy. All right. So you attempt to basically calm your nerves and settle things down, but you're on edge. Marks, you see Mojo come out to the garage and look at the loading bay and is observing Hazmat, and you can tell that they're on edge.
Seems pretty on par. Is there any alcohol?
Of course.
Marks is going to be just sipping some. Has it evolved any way since our current time? Has alcohol?
Oh, absolutely. What you have now is sun-refined alcohol. Pure solar energy.
God. Okay.
You still have regular alcohol, but it's like the price difference, it's up there. But you know what Spark pilots get? Access to a lot of things.
Hell yeah.
So what you have is you've basically got, you've got Solar Crown, which is one of the best freaking
Corona Sol.
solar. It's basically Corona Sol is also another brand, of course, but that one's a little on the nose. And so you've got access to plenty of these, and you're definitely sipping some. Would you like to make a roll of some kind?
Jim Sunbeam. That's a good one.
It's sun-based, so, I mean, sun roll.
Fair enough. Would you like to make a sun roll?
Yes.
Oh boy, yeah, you've got 2 6s, so, you've got a 6. So
I really drink the fuck out of that alcohol.
You do. Basically, you've got like one of those smaller bottles, but you just absolutely down it when you see that Mojo's on edge. And Mojo, you watch Marks and you see Marks kind of just down this bottle,
Just chilling,
and you're like,
vibing.
oh boy. Bailey and Eric. So Rial and Orla, is there anything that you two are doing in the meantime as well?
So I'm going to check over, triple check, quadruple check at this point.
Yeah, so you're triple checking the mech and making sure that everything's kind of ship shape and ready to go.
Yes.
Yeah, so basically you're in there in the garage where it's about to be set down. That sounds to me definitely like it's Moon, probably just because you're doing like the last minute sort of check and things like that. What do you think?
That seems good to me. Ooh.
Okay, a success. So, you're checking up on the mech. It's putting all of your fears and doubts out of mind and things like that. Ryle, is there anything that you are doing?
Yeah, so I'm going to go consult the computer and try to study up on the opposing team back a little bit.
Okay. The computer can basically release, and it's essentially you guys are reading each other's stats. The computer releases the basic files to you on kind of a terminal display. And it does so completely wordlessly, and so it releases those files and you kind of peruse through them. So make me a shade check.
I do be having the 2 in the shade.
Okay, a 6. You guys, you feel pretty confident just because you of course know the opposing Spark Hazmat, and so you're pretty confident in that way. The intercom system blares up with kind of a last minute second countdown, and you guys are quickly and briskly motivated. You're like, okay, it's time. And you guys get into your corresponding mech, and the platforms simply begin to lower, and you go down, careening down in these elevators at a pretty steady pace. It's not super fast, but it's very steady. And all that you see is through the mech's visor. I think they're probably unpowered right now, but they're sitting on a power station. You see just these white lights just shuddering on and off as the elevator goes down each of you into the augmented reality netweave chamber down here. And they're side by side, but you're not in the same elevator. You're in two separate elevators. And it takes basically the equivalent of 2 or 3 minutes of real time to go down in these elevators. So you all are last minute, doing like the absolute sheer last minute details of checking your mech and checking things and thinking about things. What is your internal narrative right now, each of you, starting with Mojo? And what I mean is, what are your thoughts? Think the anime internal monologue of who your character is, where they're coming from, and this is basically in-game, the way they're thinking it. Introduce your character and kind of what type of person they are, who they are, what they're thinking about the mech, the opposing team, their partner. And if you say it cool enough, and I like the kind of internal monologue well enough, you might even get a bonus.
Mojo's entire life has been focused on the idea that they are never focused as a human being. They are internally frenetic, basically undiagnosed ADHD, but without the actual diagnosis there. And the only time they have ever felt like they could focus on anything is when they're piloting a Spark. Even though they're anxious, they know that the second they get behind those controls, they know exactly what they're doing, and they have no illusions of failure in this fight. So they look at themselves and glance at Hazmat, kind of smirk a little bit, and you can kind of just see a little bit of anxiety multiply. Not all of it, still there to an extent, but just a tiny bit of it go away. And they settle into themselves and they get ready for this fight because they know exactly what they're going to do.
And Marks?
So it's an elevator, right? That we're basically getting into. All right. So getting onto the elevator, Marks takes out a flask. He stole some of the alcohol, and he twists it off and downs it, and then he silently thinks to himself, and he goes through a flashback. See, Marks grew up underground. There was actually a settlement underground, and because it's a little bit warmer underground, the core is cooling off, but it still offers some refuge. And he grew up maybe about 15, 16 years underground. Only recently has gotten out and is able to do the program. And he's thinking to himself, damn, this better be fun.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then, Hazmat, you guys are in the suit and going down as the elevator, the lights come down and the elevator stops, and there's this significant and then Hazmat powers up. What does your mech look like? And you guys can tag team this or whatever.
I feel like there has to be a radioactive symbol on it somewhere.
Yeah, so emblazoned right on the front and glowing with the sun shards energy, because of course the Sparks use sun shards, is this glowing Hazmat symbol, the radioactivity icon.
Otherwise, do you think bright yellow, sickeningly yellow?
Sickeningly bright yellow, but with red accents across the armor to give it a little bit of panache.
I always saw it as kind of bigger. What do you think?
I thought the exact same thing.
Okay. It almost has a fupa.
Just a bit of.
Okay, so a bit of a fupa. I like it.
It's just a big, but also weirdly aerodynamic, kind of somewhere in between. It moves with a surprising amount of speed for its size. Its size does not betray it. It's
like when Homer Simpson clipped the fat to the back of his.
Right. It's a little blocky, but it's still agile and quick and things like that. Okay. All right. Awesome. You guys' elevator, Starlight, is coming down, and you guys are in the unpowered mech, and the white lights are shuddering past you. And so, Orla, what is your internal monologue?
So I'm feeling pretty confident right now just because I feel at peace with my abilities, my fighter expertise and stuff, but also confident in my partner as well. You know, we're not only partners for this training type thing, but now we're life partners. And so I feel like together we can take on anything and win this challenge.
Radiating the confident energy. And Ryle, you?
I'm basically just pondering to myself, like, trying to stay patient and methodical with this. And basically, I just keep telling myself that we have the capabilities to win this. We have the range to do it. And we know what to do in this situation. On top of everything else, pacing, like, just constantly going through my mind and being as methodical as I can about it. Like my fiance said, we're in this not only as like co-pilots, but life partners. Like we know each other well enough that we can conquer.
So the life partner duo comes down and your platform goes, and then the spark Starlight powers up, and you guys look across and you see this open room, and it's this grid along the walls and the floor and the ceiling, and these white beams are kind of pulsating along the grid and glowing in a different way, and rippling. The room itself almost seems alive. What does Starlight look like?
Well, as you can kind of gather from its name, it's a very like golden white, golden shiny color. Like it just looks super bright and ethereal.
Western style 6-shooters at its side, rifle strapped on its back, just all laid out in gold and like shiny white.
Okay, all right. So shiny, bright whites and golds, and this basically let me add something if I will, because each spark, of course, is powered by a solar shard, a chunk of the sun, and so like there's these pinpoints, and so like there's all these dotted bits all over you that look like stars, but they're actually joints and pieces where the sun beams actually come out of the armor and stuff like that. And so you guys each step out of your elevators and you see come up in your visor, basically in your HUD, like right in your vision here, is this familiar face. You haven't seen him, of course, for a few days because you got to see your families and get some rest between the program itself and the aptitude test, because of course it was accelerated by however long I said. I don't remember what it was accelerated. I think by like 50 days or 3 months or something like that, 50, 60 days. But you see Kincaid, and Commander Kincaid is basically the one in charge of the salvage union and sending the sparks out and stuff like this. He kind of works directly with the government and reports to them and stuff like this. And he is an accomplished military guy. He was one of the first spark pilots. He was in the initial run 50 years back. He was one of the most qualified pilots out of Atlantis. He was a member of the spark union known as the Sphere, sometimes called the Eastern and the Western Sphere because it's so big that there's a Western and Eastern part of Atlantis, but he was a member of the Eastern Sphere. He was actually originally from Africa, from Johanneswell, and he wanted to bring the connection and the reconnection of the world back to his home. And so, of course, he is. And Commander Kincaid is this, he's a tan brown sort of guy, and he wears all these chains, and he's basically just got a tank top on and like these really, really built cargo pants shorts, usually. So completely informal. But Commander Kincaid, he's got a cigarette ashing in his mouth, essentially, and he takes it out and ashes it off screen, and he says, "Well, I've got to fucking say, I'm damn proud of you all. As the computer already let you know, this is the penultimate piece of your training. We've had to accelerate the program due to unforeseen circumstances going on both inside and outside of the city, but I think you can handle it. You've trained for this. You've been notified time in and time again what this test is going to require of you and what it's going to be. It's still going to be surprising the first time. It was for me. These augmented reality netweave chambers, they are no joke. They're not playing around. It's going to look and feel like the real thing, the real deal. So, let me tell you, if you get hurt in there, just know it's going to be okay. We'll rush you right to clinical, and everything will be fine. And any damage to the sparks, of course, is going to be circumstantial and probably less than impacted. Remember, these chambers are built to simulate and simulate alone. So even though it's going to feel very real, well, it's not exactly real. So, remember that if you have any questions, you can ask the computer, although in the heat of combat, I wouldn't imagine you'd have very much to ask as you're getting your ass handed to you, or vice versa. But, make me proud, and I promise, I don't have any favorites. Let the computer walk you through the boot up sequence, and don't get too dizzy when the reality NetWeave chamber does its thing. Just, you've been through G training, so I trust you. Kincaid out, and basically he salutes you, and you guys also, Bailey, Orla, you salute him back, and of course you've always been the one. You're almost always the first salute and stuff like that. So actually, go ahead and edit the Spark file for you guys, and give yourself 5 more salvage. Basically, you're gonna get some extra modifying capability because of that. I'm gonna give you a little bit more because Commander Kincaid appreciates even though he's not a formal guy, he appreciates the respect and the kind of quick caliber there. After he signs off and you guys bid him adieu, you are left to your own devices and the computer's devices. You step into the augmented reality NetWeave chamber. This chamber, as I've described, is this. It's huge. It's probably the size of 2 football stadiums. It's like twice the size, maybe 3 times even the size of a football stadium. A big one, right? So it's huge. And you watch as the room, this grid, almost like a fishing net all around the room of these tracing lights, right? And then they start to solidify and color starts to seep into the lights, right? And it starts to formulate into space, a real space, instead of a simulated kind of environment. And you guys are basically, you walk out into the very center of this room, there's 2 actual big, X's where you're meant to stand. And they're kind of very, very far from one another initially. And so you guys are at far distance, or you're at distant distance, rather, from each other to start off, kind of at opposite ends of this big rectangular room. And the room fills in between you. And you've been told already, and the computer is kind of voicing through the process of the percentages raising. You guys are kind of thinking through this, and you watch as the scene in front of you starts to translate into what your minds imagine. So I want each of you to type something into the chat that's a piece of this environment. Okay, it could be anything. It could be a piece of weather. It could be a specific feature. Like there's a big rock that's this big spot. Type it up into the Nova Atis chat, and that will be a piece of the actual thing because it's conglomerating all of you guys' mental thoughts and capacity together. Okay, everyone. So you watch as the battlefield starts to take shape and emerge in front of you. It is these icy rolling hills. So there's just this frosted over grass, and it's not even grass. It's you guys have seen bits and pieces of the outside world and even a little bit into the dusk, but not much at all. But it's this brown gray grass dusted in frost. And there's basically, each of you is on a hill, and then in the middle there's this big bowl, and then behind you and beyond are actual, you look and you're not in a room anymore, there's mountains and stuff behind you, you're like, can I go back there? Probably best not to try, but who knows. And it's cloudy over you, and there's this dry lightning, and you see in the distance lightning arcing through the air into the middle of the arena. Towards the middle of the arena in slow motion, and it looks like it's about to strike. And there's trees, but they're like warped remnants of pine trees. They're brown needles and they're falling, but there are these sparse trees in and around the battle area. And then you hear the computer finishes its percentage countdown, and of course it says,
Spark Battlefield, call sign Starlight versus call sign Hazmat, 100% rendered.
And so, the fight begins. So what I'm going to do for the initiative is quite simple. I'm going to draw a card from this deck of playing cards. I promise it's real, I have it. It's 52 cards. So it's normal. There are no jokers. So jokers are not a guess. Okay? And what you guys are going to do, you're not going to discuss this. If you discuss this, you're essentially cheating. I trust you guys. So what you're going to do is you're going to think of a card, and you're going to try and mind link with your partner, because you want to try and guess the same card, if you can, the exact same card, because that's going to be the most beneficial for you. But you also want to try to guess the card that I have drawn from the deck. So you don't want to just go, okay, let's just start guessing the ace of spades every time, because what I draw might not be the ace of spades. To give you an idea of what the stakes are here before you start thinking of a card. So I've drawn one. This is the card. I draw a card. Each of you is going to name a card in a 52 card deck of cards. So, you know the suits, you know the numbers, and just to let you know, ace is low card, not that it matters. So it's 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 10, and then jack, queen, king. Then you check to see if you match one another. If you match the same color, so if you both guess a red card, then you would get a health if it's red, a fuel if it's black. And clearly you guys haven't used any of your health or fuel yet, but that can come in handy later. If you match the suit, you get an extra move in the round. So you can move twice and then act. If you match the same value, which is number or the queen, king, whatever, you get an extra action in the round. And you might ask, well, what happens if we match multiple of those? You get both effects. And if you match the exact same card with your partner, you get a drop, an extra move, and an extra action. And that means that you ultra-link, tri-link. You can, link, you can dual link, and you can tri-link. Then you check to see if you guys' matches, either one of your matches, matches my card. And depending on how well you match my card, that determines who goes first in the initiative. Matching my value is the first step. And then if no one matches that, if you match my suit, then you go. And then if you match my color, then you'll go. And you always defer to the closest value. So if all of you go super wide of my card, then whoever had the closest number to mine goes first.
So, like, if you picked out, like, the king of diamonds and everyone was, like, a spade, it would just be whoever's number was closest to you?
Yep.
Okay.
If somebody had a queen, it'd be whoever had the queen, basically, or jack, if not, if that makes sense. Right. So everyone have your guess and send your guess all simultaneously in the Nova Atis chat. If you're ready at the countdown of 5, just let me know when you're ready by giving a thumbs up. Alrighty. So, my card was the 2 of clubs. So, all of you guys went pretty wide because you're not clubs and you're definitely, none of you are black either. You actually all went red. The 2 of clubs, it defers to whatever the closest value is, which is Will with the 4. So Will chose 4, which means that Hazmat gets the initiative and will act first in the round because you guys link up and you basically jump into action. But you both chose red. So you match red, which means that you would get a health drop, but you don't have any health lost, so it just goes to ether. You don't get it to save it. And then, Eric and Bailey, you guys matched suit. So that means that even though AJ and Will get to go first, you guys matched suit, which means an extra move in the round. So you guys can move twice, because you both picked hearts. Congratulations, you guys have dual linked. So you watch as Hazmat leaps into action, starts bounding between the trees towards you, and you watch as the thumps and basically like these gauntlets start to just kind of whir and twist. And then you guys just stand there and you're waiting, and you just put your hands on your various guns and you watch it, like the cannons slowly start to get ready, and you guys are prepped and ready. Hazmat, you get 1 action and 1 move. So you can move 1 range band, you don't have to, you can stay where you are, and then you get 1 action, which can be using one of your 3 attributes or using a power.
What distance are we starting at from them?
You guys are distant.
Okay, great.
All right. Allow us to text a little bit.
Yeah, because we need to discuss this.
How far away can you move?
You move 1 range band, so you'd close it from distant to far, right? I believe that's it.
Okay.
So, quick question. In regards to snare, when it says at, does that include movement?
Yes, you can move and then use your action or your power, and then you're at that range because you moved.
Well, no, like,
Yep.
Okay, so snare says choose someone that prevents them from acting around, right? Does that include them moving? Like, could they still move if we snared them?
It just says they cannot act, which means I'd say that just affects movement, that they could still do their action.
Okay.
because it is just snaring them.
Okay, got it.
For the spark, at least. For enemies, it'll be probably different.
Okay.
So you ready, AJ, to say what we chose?
Yeah.
Okay. So Hazmat is actually going to move back further behind the ashen trees, and then he is going to use zero fuel for kindling.
So we're gonna smack face with some fire.
Okay, and so kindling. So choose number of targets equal to or less than your sun. So you choose the one target at any range. And so when you describe your movement, you're not actually closing distance at all. You're just staying distant, right?
Stay away.
We're going further back.
You can't go any further than just distant. But yeah, you move amongst the trees and take cover. Thematically, you are moving further back, but it's still distant.
Thematically, for Hazmat, it's not like fire. It's actually radiation. I think we agreed on, right, AJ?
Yeah, it's thing different, like effect-wise. Just
well, and one cool thing about the sun is it is highly radioactive. So you guys fire forth your gauntlets and you watch as these beams of energy charge up and arc towards you, Starlight. And one of them just blasts you right in the shoulder. So 2 health, and I'm keeping track of it here on my little pad as well.
What was their starting?
6 and 6.
6 and 6. Okay, thank you.
So a little bit of a hit, but remember, of course, if you manage to link and both pick red suit, you can tactically think about that and go, well, maybe we should both pick a red suit, and then we'll get a health drop. It's because then you'll recover health. It is Starlight's go. You guys get 2 movement and then an action.
So if we move, we only have to move once to close the range gap, correct?
Yeah, because if you move once, then you're at far. And so if you use both your movement, you could go to near. So you could be near them.
So we're going to use one of our moves to get into the long range, and then we're going to use take aim.
Yep, so you guys are going to do that. And you guys are drifter, so take aim. And so you move once, you're at far, and you don't have to use your second move. Harm equal to your shade is how much damage?
Harm equal to our shade is 2.
So basically, you guys, however thematically you want to do it, but you basically run up, leap up into one of these trees, and start taking shots, and Hazmat, some shots of solar energy kind of pepper your suit, and you take 2 damage as well. Fellas and felines, it is time to draw initiative again. You guys now notice that the lightning that's arcing through the middle of the battlefield is starting to spread out, and it looks like it might electrify the ground momentarily. You think that in order to avoid this, you might need to move out of you might need to leap into the air temporarily and take the fight to air, which is possible, of course. I have drawn the card, the initiative card for the round. As soon as everybody is ready with their card, the card that I have is the 6 of hearts, because it's the top, and yeah. So I have the 6 of hearts, which means that first, the value match, no one got a 6 on par, so then the suit, which is hearts, which means that Bailey, you got it, and so Starlight will go first, because you matched suit. And then you guys both got red, which means you recover 1 health by linking a single link. AJ, you got 8 of clubs, and Will Walker got 10 of clubs, which means that you guys both get a fuel drop, which you don't need, but you also get an extra move because you matched suit.
Dope.
Didn't need fuel, but okay.
Starlight gets to go first. What do you guys think that you're going to do?
Just as a question, does moving to the air take our turn? Can we move to the air?
It takes your movement.
Okay.
Takes movement. That's fine. We're still at far range.
Okay. I think.
All right. So Starlight, you're doing the same thing as before, or what are you doing?
Yeah, we're going to go to the
Go ahead.
and take aim at him again.
Okay. So you take aim and you fire off another big shot, and so Hazmat takes another 2 damage. And you guys are going to take to the air, right, with your move?
Yes.
So you guys basically leap up from the tree cover, and you leap up into the air, and the lightning is arcing past you towards the ground, this bowl in the center of the arena. And you guys are now very open, and you don't have a lot of cover. So Hazmat, if you guys do harm to them on this turn, it will add 1 harm because they're out in the open. But they might be avoiding this lightning, which could be worse. So we will see how that goes.
You have 2 movement, right?
Yes, because you guys linked suit.
Okay, dope. So theoretically, we could move back and then go into the air. How's that sound, Mark?
Let's discuss it. I like to think that during this entire thing, that Marx is just in there talking to Mojo, and he's just drinking the entire time.
Absolutely. You guys are in the cockpit, and both teams, you guys are at full communication, and you're like linking up and using targeting systems and computers and piloting at the same time. And you're in this harness as well. So whatever movements you make with your lower body and upper body help correspond, but you can also use targeting computers and things like that. So you're basically doing a lot of like quick mechanical adjustments, things like that on the fly, and drinking. And any thematic elements you guys want to throw into the mech cooperation, also definitely do that. So like, you know, Marks, for saying that you're drinking, that's definitely thematic.
Okay, we're gonna back up. Okay, Hazmat, back up into the air, shoot some kindling.
So you back up, you know, away, you skirt the edge of this valley in the center and jump up into the air towards some more of the trees that are bundled together and take a shot at them with kindling. And so these small shots of sparks launch over the air towards Starlight. And Starlight, you are going to take more damage because you're not in cover, so you take 3 harm instead of... Or wait, it's equal to Shade,
no,
right?
It's 2. We have 1 harm, but we have... is it Wrath?
Lethal.
Lethal on it, so it's 2, and because the damage would be 3.
Starlight takes 3 damage because of that, and then you guys, I assume, are going to heal 1 health, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a tough hit for Starlight. Starlight is at 2, and Hazmat is at 4. Whew, oh boy. It is time for the next initiative draw. The lightning arcs towards the ground in the center of this bowl shape, and it strikes the ground, and you watch as it electrifies the grass, and the grass just starts to like arc with electricity and flames and starts to lick up. And more lightning strikes start to come towards the ground. The ground is no longer safe, and so you guys have to engage your thrust boosters and stay in air. And so now you're both out the open, so you're both going to be taking +1 harm from each other's attacks. Keep that in mind.
Delightful.
I've drawn the initiative card, and it is now you guys' turn to think. Okay, Eric needs a second. He's thinking long and hard about it. He's going to pick... I'm going to guess that Eric's picking the 4 of clubs, but that's just me. All right, everybody send in your guesses. Jack of spades, and that is exactly what Will guessed.
Yes,
Yeah,
Will!
I thought you'd see it. So Jack of spades is my card. Hazmat goes first without a question because Marks, you're looking through and you see the arcs of lightning and you see a path through them to hit straight for Starlight. You basically are like Mojo now's our shot. And so you guys are definitely going to go first. And Bailey got the 3 of diamonds, and Eric got the 4 of hearts. So you guys do match color, so you gain 1 health back. AJ and Will Walker did not match, but you guys do get to definitely go first.
Marks.
It's time to kindle again, I think.
Yep.
Okay.
Snap.
So you guys hit him with the kindling.
Yeah.
Snap the fingers like Roy Mustang with a lighter, and it just sends kindling.
You snap, and basically you basically snap the gauntlets, and just pieces of kindling start fuming and straight out. And so you do 3 damage to Starlight. Starlight, you watch as the superheating of the engine catches up, and you fall back into the tree, and it catches the tree that you guys are on fire too. And it starts to get really, really hot, and you guys are sweating, and the systems of Starlight are like, and the tree starts to burn. Starlight, because of this, it's the Jack of Spades that did you in. I'm sorry to say, but you guys have fallen. You did gain that 1 health, but you have fallen. Hazmat is the winner, and that's Nova Atis. You watch as the simulation starts to just boil down, and that was basically like less than a minute of intense combat, and it just starts to melt away.
Marks takes a victorious swig, walking down the stairs.
The computer, it wipes away, and you're back to this room, and the grid that was before black with these pinpoints of lights shifts, and now it's this bright white room, and your eyes are blinded momentarily, actually, and the mechs power down, the sparks do, and you guys step out of them, and you were feeling real pain, but Ryle and Orla, you guys look at your arms and your hands and stuff, and you're actually fine. So you've never really quite understood it, but like felt it before. You've been told, but Commander Kincaid was right that the augmented reality NetWeave chamber it makes you feel like it's real, but for some reason it's augmented, and you don't know how. Maybe there's just some sort of integration going on there, but suddenly over the loudspeaker you hear the computer.
Congratulations, Hazmat. You have won Hazmat versus Starlight.
And the computer then goes through, and you guys see popping up in areas across the white room, you see little clips of it was all recorded from every possible angle, and you see clips. And then you see Commander Kincaid's face come up, and the computer's like analyzing statistics, and you see little freeze frames with percentages coming off and things like that. And Commander Kincaid comes on the screen, and he gives you guys a salute. He says, "Well done, all of you. Starlight, you put up a great fight. Orla, Ryle, I'm proud of you both. You have been eliminated from the bracket, however. That doesn't mean that you're not winning the aptitude testing. In fact, as you can see here," and he starts pointing off to a couple of the graphics, "you all came out with a shatteringly good start. You waited and saw what the enemy had to do before you acted. You were thoughtful and calculated, and you didn't sacrifice any of your good positioning at the starting, and that is exactly what I've taught you. So for that, congratulations. Going over all this footage, all of the replays, I have to say, all four of you are pass. You have a future here with the Salvage Union, and you're going to make fine and capable Spark pilots. So take a few days to modify your Spark, to get acquainted with Starlight, to get ready for the real thing. Do your research. Go into the pamphlets, the cyber pamphlets that we have on the areas of the dusk just outside the city. You're going to need to know what's out there. I expect you to have read them. I expect you to have known and understand a little bit about the threats that we face. And beyond all else, rest and be ready. Congratulations, both of you. Hazmat, I have to say, I didn't expect as much from either of you. So, you've surprised me, and that's worth saying something. Marks, put down the fucking bottle next time. I swear to the sun and what is good and holy and left in the sky of the moon, I will make sure that you are expedited from this program very swiftly if you ever are fully drunk while piloting one of these sparks. Do you understand me?
I'll drink to that. Oh, sorry.
Feel free to enjoy yourself before your next matchup. The computer and I will both provide you with information once that is determined. But the same that I said to Starlight goes for you two as well. Get yourself some rest. And Mojo, your family would be proud.
Thank you, sir.
Now, you know that this is customary. This is part of the requirement. And I understand that the tenseness of a fight like this can stir some emotions, but you are all friends, and you're all going to be allies on the battlefield in the future. So, go to the lounge and rest. Get yourself a soda or something. I don't care. Kincaid over and out. And so now we have the last part. You guys come out of the augmented reality NetWeave chamber, and now it's open for some roleplay. You guys go to the lounge, and the lounge is this huge cafeteria area with all the other Spark pilots. It's kind of unpopulated right now, but there's food and vending machines and coffee and soda and like games and all sorts of things that you could imagine. So go wild. But you go to the lounge, and there's also computers with the news going on and mission reports and things like this. And it's looking pretty bleak. The outside of the city is currently kind of under siege. A lot of the solar walls are like being attacked from things out in the dusk, and they don't have good reports. That's what you guys are needed for. So
Do they have Catan? Also, another thing. On the way out, Marx hugs both Rial and Orla. He hugs both of them and he says, "That was truly fun. Here, have some." And he hands his flask to them.
I'm going to turn that down just because drinking out of a sketchy flask might not be the best idea. But I do hug you back and I say that you guys are really great fun.
Like, you guys were up there. You were shooting at us, and we backed away, and we shot at you some more. It was so great. It was so awesome. It was so epic. And I just, oh my gosh, it was so much fun. And Mojo is literally just like bouncing
when you guys come into the lounge, the replays of your battle are already up there, and it's like the computer's analyzing certain things, and it basically, you know how announcers are. The computer has compiled all of your battle into highlight reel and is announcing it, and it's just crazy. And some of the other Spark pilots are in there. You actually notice both all the pilots for Origin and the pilots for Plasma are there, and you don't know them as well because they've done aptitude before. You're more in with some of the Rogue brothers, and the Hyperion people, but they're like off sitting at a table and they're kind of watching, and they seem pretty impressed and stuff like this. But of course you're way too scared to go talk to them or anything like that. But your highlight reels are up there, and Starlight, even though you lost, like, you looked damn good doing it, and you guys are zipping and zooming, and you guys avoided the lightning far quicker than Hazmat did. You guys leapt up. Is there anything else that you want to do in the lounge as a denouement?
Marks, I'm gonna go get a solar pepper. Do you want anything?
You know I've got all I need right here.
And if you guys want to sit at the same table and kind of be chilling and stuff like that, the LED screen in the table lights up, and the computer array there is like, if you would like to, please select a game to play. It's got like some dice rolling games and like virtual pool or billiards, but you control the stick with your mind and just by linking your hands onto it. There's a couple games if you guys have a preference.
Those are just like sitting there chugging this liter bottle of solar pepper, and everybody else has these tiny little, like, the hospital cans of soda. Like, imagine that.
Marks plays some virtual blackjack.
You play it with some of the other Spark pilots, like, across the network, and you're losing poorly as usual, but you just enjoy the game, of course. One of the mechanics who actually works on both of you guys as Sparks comes up. He's got some noodles, and he's like, hey, mind if I sit with you guys? I was just watching the beginnings of your replay. He's like, damn, Starlight, I'm sorry you got smoked like that.
It's all right. We'll get him next time. And as I say that, I'm going to lean over and kiss Ryle on the cheek.
Yeah, and there always is a next time. After all, you guys are graduating and going out there into the wider world. And you know what? I'm there for it. And I'll always be there to fix any sort of problems that arise. So don't be afraid to put Starlight through the grinder. I will get her back to full power. I'm assuming that Starlight is like a her. He kind of glances at you guys for Hazmat, and he's like, so, Mojo and Marks, who do you think you guys are going to be up against next round, huh? Scary thought.
Not really.
I don't know.
I'm just happy to be here, and I'm excited. And I whoever it is, it's going to be fun. And we might lose, but no matter what, I'm going to be with Marks, and we're going to have a great time. And Hazmat just works for us, and we're going to keep doing what we do. And Mojo literally puts down the solar pepper to say that, and then the moment he stops, immediately chugging it.
The engineer kind of glances at you, Marks, and is like, are we sure that he should be drinking this much solar pepper on a daily basis?
Marks drinks an equal amount of booze. Says, I don't know, man.
He shakes his head. He's like, I bet you all fight Hyperion next. That'll be something to see. He lifts up his glass of lemon-infused, like, water, or it's something like that, some sort of flavored water. And he lifts it up, kind of twirls his noodle fork a little bit, and he's like, a toast, huh? To what's left of the sun, and to the Salvage Union.
Salvage Union.
The Salvage Union. And that, my friends, is the end of the session.